Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. I couldn't help chuckling under my breath at Sasuke's predicament. I had heard the shrieking of his fangirls from outside the academy, and the din was only worse on the inside of the classroom. As far as I could tell, his fangirls had been fighting over who got to sit next to him, and then the Uchiha heir, apparently too distracted to notice the shouting, made the mistake of walking in. Now he was being slowly suffocated from an acute lack of personal space, and I was sitting on my bench mentally laughing at him. The noise level hadn't dropped in the slightest by the time someone slumped on the desk beside me and growled, "Dobi." "Teme," I returned with a good-natured grin. "Escaped the rabid fangirls for another day, Sasuke merely grunted in reply, resting his head on the desk. The fangirls were still bickering amongst themselves, yet to notice that their prize had escaped and was now sitting at the window seat with the dead last between him and his rabid fan club. Bastard, using me as a shield. Fortunately, Iruka-sensei came in just then, and the fan club was distracted from either a renewed attack on Sasuke or a new attempt on mauling me as he yelled at them to find seats already, damn it. Once the classroom was in relative order and I could feel the force of about 24 death glares aimed at the back of my head. So they'd finally noticed. Iruka-sensei told us the results of yesterday's written exam, and those who had failed trooped out miserably. In a way, I guess it's not fair to kick out the non-bookish ninja straight away, but when they don't have a clue what the 5 main ninja villages are or what a henge is, then it's probably a good idea to get rid of them before they get themselves killed. I know for a fact some of them were purposely failed because the teachers know they can't handle ninja life yet. But anyway, I had somehow scraped a pass, although Kami knows how, and I was very pleased. The rest of the class, and probably a good portion of the rest of the building, was alerted to that fact as I jumped onto my desk and hollered, "Hell yeah! Konoha's about to meet its #1 ninja." I would have shouted more if not for Sasuke grabbing a fistful of my shirt and yanking me backwards off the desk, sending me toppling. If I hadn't been ready for it, I would have hit my head on the stair above me and probably gotten knocked out. Instead, I leapt straight to my feet and shouted, "What the hell was that for, Teme? You're giving me a migraine, Dobi. Teme, don't call me that. If I'm dead last, then why am I still in the room while other people failed?" I heard Iruka groan quietly as Sasuke and I argued, me at the top of my lungs and Sasuke with quieter retorts, but for me, despite my apparent annoyance, this was fun. Irritating Sasuke was a bit of a hobby. And for Sasuke, I was less of a migraine than his fangirls. So we argued, getting progressively louder by the second, until Iruka yelled, "Knock it off, you two." We stopped shouting at each other and instead turned our smoldering glares on him, both mentally insisting he started it. Iruka was apparently unimpressed and ignored us as he repeated the explanation of the physical exams he'd given us yesterday, before he got called away. "You will be called outside in pairs to demonstrate your projectile throwing and then your taijutsu in a short spar. After that you will return to the classroom, quietly, and wait. When your name is called you will go into that room there and demonstrate your ninjutsu ability. Normally this would happen the same day as your written exam, but due to unusual circumstances it was postponed." I grinned. The unusual circumstances had been someone dousing the Hokage monument with a variety of paints, and then leading 3/4 of the village ninja on a wild goose chase all across Konoha and then some, before vanishing into thin air. They never caught the culprit, a sore spot of the 17 Anbu who had been in pursuit, or even found out who did it, and the best part was that I was off the suspects list. I'd been in the classroom waiting for the exam to start the entire time. Perfect alibi that no fewer than 45 people could support. The chase had taken up the whole morning, and there hadn't been enough teachers left behind to supervise the exams. So, the written got pushed back to the afternoon, and without enough time for the phys tests, they got dragged back to today. Ignoring the fidgeting of the kids around me, some frantically going over jutsu notes. What's the point of that? The theory won't help you now. I spent the next half hour seeing how often I could poke Sasuke with my foot before he shot me a glare strong enough to wither plants and poke me back, hard. Not long, apparently. "Stop fighting and get out here, you two." Oh good, that meant it was our turn. I bounced to my feet with a grin, while Sasuke stood up calmly and just walked down the stairs, me following him noisily and bouncing several feet in the air with every step. I probably would have tripped and fallen down the stairs at some point if not for Sasuke grabbing my jacket, again, and dragging me down. "Come on, Dobi, I want to get this over with." "Teme," I screeched. "If you want to pass you're gonna have to fight for it." Mizuki, who was the tester for the phys exams, sighed and dragged us apart before we could kill each other. "Wait for the spar," he informed us sharply. "Uchiha, you first, 3 kunai at that target, now." Sasuke threw the kunai instantly, and I heard the short thunk as each one hit the target. "Nice. 3 bullseyes," Mizuki commented. "You, same target, 3 kunai, go." I breathed a faint sigh of relief and threw my weapons, hearing a clash as they hit Sasuke's, and frowned. That Demise kunai had better not have thrown my shots off. But no, it seemed I was fine. Sasuke's voice faintly awed as he muttered, 2 dead center and 1 damn close. Not bad for Adobe. I shook my fist at him, a promise for the taijutsu fight. Shuriken went almost exactly the same, and we both passed. It would be impossible not to, with our scores. Now, we faced off on the grassy field, Mizuki standing between us and getting ready to get the hell out of the way. I closed my eyes and breathed in deeply, trying to relax. Freaking out or getting furious would not help me here. I needed to stay calm. "Remember, taijutsu only, you two," he told us. "Sasuke, that means no kaiden jutsu. And no explosive tags. No weapons for either of you. Ready? Begin." My eyes snapped open and I sprang sideways, Sasuke's first punch missing me, and there was a crunching of shredding grass as he twisted on one foot to snap the other out at me in a powerful kick that I swept aside with both arms, dodging a follow-up punch and throwing my elbow at Sasuke's chest. It missed, of course. I landed on my forearms and immediately went into a roll. Once my back was underneath me, I pushed off, clipping Sasuke's chin with my feet as I jumped back upright, but he wasn't dazed, easily jumping the foot sweep I attempted as I spun around to face him. I heard the rustle of cloth, the sound that meant he was throwing a punch, and ducked it quickly, whipping around again, mentally cursing, "Damn the little bastard, he is fast," and springing away from the uppercut that grazed my cheek. It was an instantaneous act-react-act-again fight, neither of us losing or gaining any ground as we exchanged blows that were either blocked or dodged, both unable to get in a solid hit as we ducked and weaved between each other's punches and kicks, moving as fast as we could. Finally Sasuke surprised me with a kick disguised as a punch that I blocked and twisted my other arm, expecting to get a knee to the stomach, and instead felt the solid impact of his foot against my chest. It was a strong kick, too, all the force of his leg behind it, and I hit the ground with a heavy thud, slamming the back of my head against the dirt. For about half a second I stared blankly straight up at the sky as I tried to force air back into my aching lungs, before remembering I was in the middle of a spar, and immediately rolled over backwards. I got halfway through my roll before Sasuke landed on my legs, obviously having been aiming for my stomach, and found himself being flipped with my momentum, and he was thrown off easily as I flipped myself back upright and spun to face him, where he'd hit the ground with a thump and rolled away to get his breath back. We were both panting, breath rushing in and out of our lungs as we tried to get oxygen into our systems, having just been winded. Sasuke sounded worse than me, straining for air, but then again, I'd had a precious few extra seconds. We were both waiting for the other to make a next move, the next wave of attacks stalling. Neither of us wanted to leap straight in again. Then we both moved in the same instant, rushing back into the fight. I was grinning fiercely as I spun on the ball of my foot to get around Sasuke, and even though I couldn't see his face as I leaned into his back and jerked his feet out from under him with my other leg, I know he was smiling too, in his own way, 'cause that's how me and Sasuke work. I heard Sasuke's back hit the ground, already midway through a roll, and I spun again, blocking his next punch and striking out with my own, swiping at his legs once more and tilting my head to the side to avoid a high kick. We had gone back to the complex dance that made up our spars, barely grazing each other with our attacks and dodging everything with a finesse that made it seem even less like a fight. I heard him draw his fist back through the rush of adrenaline, and mirrored the movement perfectly. Our fists slammed together, and instantly we leapt apart, panting heavily. Then I smiled, and we both bowed to each other, before turning to the astonished teacher. Mizuki stammered, "You're supposed to keep going until someone loses." We both shook our heads. "If we fight longer, we'll start using ninjutsu," Sasuke said quietly, and I grinned brightly, putting my arms behind my head. The teacher was startled by our apparent lack of will to kill each other, when we were usually at one another's throats, but he managed to say, "Okay then. You both passed the taijutsu section, head back inside and just wait." He stumbled off, probably for a cup or two of sake, having been watching small children trying to beat each other up for the past 2 hours, and Sasuke and me both went back inside. Back in our usual seats, we endured Sasuke's fan club fawning over him and fighting with each other in the background. Sasuke, I suspect, was merely trying to hide under his desk and sneak away, but I was just ignoring them. They just weren't worth the effort, and I was too busy being worried about my ninjutsu. See, I can't do a bunshin. I know why, but I can't fix it, or get around it, and I've been getting help, but it still doesn't work. I can do kawarimi, and even henge with ease, though it took a lot of practice and Sasuke laughing at me. But bunshin is simply beyond me. It won't work. Uchiha Sasuke, Iruka called, sticking his head out of the room. I blinked and looked up. Me and Sasuke were the only ones left. Somehow his fan club had all been through and I hadn't noticed them thinning out, although Sasuke had probably sighed with relief as every girl left. It was a 5-minute wait of pure torture. I was actually starting to shiver, my heart thundering in my chest and my breath coming in short pants. I was about 20 seconds from a full-blown panic attack when Iruka called my name. I sprang to my feet instantly, feeling as if ants were crawling across my skin, and couldn't help brushing my arms violently as I bolted down the stairs, trying to get rid of the tickly feeling and slow my heart rate down at the same time before I opened the door. I shut my eyes and took in a deep breath, hearing Iruka sigh faintly with relief. Last one, and the restless shifting of another teacher. Mizuki had probably come in after his sake. I took another breath before I opened my eyes, trying to calm down, and I heard Iruka say, "Okay then, could you please display a henge?" I swallowed anxiously and managed to say without stammering or letting my voice crack in terror, "What of? Just me will be fine." I breathed in deeply and put my hands into the ram seal, focusing my chakra and pulling it around me, shaping it into the image I was supposed to, and held my breath even as I said cheerfully, "How's this?" "Perfect," Iruka said happily, his pencil scribbling on paper, "Now kawarimi." I nodded and focused. This one was harder, but I knew exactly where he was standing, so if all went well, I could manage it. The hand seals flew by on pure instinct. I felt the chakra flush through my system, throwing up a burning tingle of feeling over me. Then the sense of pressure and the sense of my heart skipping a beat as my body swapped positions. I heard a yelp from Iruka, and leaned back in my newly gained chair, smirking. He cleared his throat, recovering from the shock of being used as a kawarimi target, and said, "Very good, Naruto. Just one more. Make 3 bunshin." I swallowed shakily as I stood up. I could do this. I had to do this, no matter how much I sucked at bunshin. I had to pass. Slowly, I brought my trembling hands together into the hand seals, focusing the chakra through my fingertips carefully, focusing intently on the shapes, feeling the chakra flowing out of me and fighting to get it into the right position, trying as hard as I could to keep control. I felt it flow and solidify, and I squeezed my eyes shut and dropped my hands slowly, not turning around to look, my heart pounding in terror as if it was trying to break out of my ribcage. "Please, please let it have worked this time, please let me pass." "Naruto?" I heard Iruka sigh, and my heart rate doubled. I hadn't thought it was possible. "You fail. I'm sorry." I felt my heart stop and all the breath rushed out of my body. I'd failed. The jutsu hadn't worked. "Come on, Iruka," Mizuki protested. He at least made 2 bunshin this time. I didn't open my eyes, though, not bothering to try to see what horrible mistake I'd made this time. "One looks dead, and the other looks like the Hokage monument did yesterday," Iruka said flatly, sounding disappointed. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but I can't pass you on that." I slowly turned away, towards the second door of the room, where everyone else had already passed through, with their hite-atesh. They had passed, and I had failed. Again, my footsteps were slow, my head turned to the ground as I walked slowly to my tree, the one with the swing hanging off it, listening to the other children babbling to their parents about their day and how they passed the exam and were genin now. I sank onto the swing, feeling weak and exhausted. I couldn't make a stupid bunshin, and I'd never pass the academy exam. I could never be a ninja. I heard sprinting footsteps and then Sasuke's voice calling, "Dobi, what are you doing over here?" "Oh no. I heard the shock and sadness in his voice. "Oh, man, I'm sorry, I thought I'd finally managed to pass?" I interrupted dully, leaning against the rope of the swing. "Let's face it, Sasuke, I'm never going to pass. I'll never be able to make a passable bunshin. I'll never be a ninja." Sasuke was silent, obviously not knowing how to respond, before he sat down on the grass next to me, trying to offer comfort with his presence. Oddly, it helped, and I sighed faintly, turning my head to the sky, before asking quietly, "Sasuke?" "Yeah?" My voice was wistful. "What does the sunset look like?" He took a deep breath. "The sun's just barely touching the horizon now. We got out a little late. It looks a lot bigger than usual, as if it's absorbing all the daylight as it falls. It's a deep yellow, starting to fade into orange, and there are small wisps of cloud-stained red and orange across it. The sky around it is orange that deepens to red as it hits the trees at the bottom, and as it rises up it fades into the blue of twilight as it starts to deepen into dusk. The sky on the other side is turning purple and dark blue, everything fading away into the darkness as it falls. There are some clouds pretty high up, gray and white, and with the sunlight behind them it looks as if they've been edged in gold. Clouds with golden linings, instead of silver. The sun's halfway gone now. The sky's deepening in color, and the sun is a darker orange. It almost hurts to look at it because it's so bright. The clouds are beginning to fade into the shadows as the light vanishes, and the sky near the sun is starting to grow fainter, blending into the blues of the surrounding air. There's a flock of birds in the distance, outlined by the sunlight, looking for a roosting tree for the night. You can probably hear them calling better than I can. I barely hear anything from that far off. He was right. I could faintly hear their screeches, even at the distance they were. The sun's just falling below the horizon now, and the light's all fading away, leaving behind the grays and blues of dusk and nightfall as purple and black overtake the sky. The first stars are just starting to appear, pinpricks of silver in a blanket that darkens as you watch. The last of the light is dying, leaving nothing behind but darkness. There was a short pause, before I said quietly, "Thanks, Sasuke." "No problem, Naruto." He sensed that I wanted to be on my own for a while now, and stood up to leave. He didn't say anything more, there was nothing more to be said. I sighed, and stared up at a sky I couldn't see, wishing that things could be different, and knowing they never would be. I, Uzumaki Naruto, am completely blind. And Sasuke, aside from me, is the only one who knows. I'm not sure how long I had been sitting there when I became aware of someone standing in the tree above me. Their breathing and shifting of weight against the bark reaching my ears. Automatically I looked up at them, even though I couldn't see them, and Mizuki's voice said, "Hey, Naruto." I blinked, then turned my gaze back to the ground. There was something off in his voice, but it was probably just my hearing being a little off because I had my teeth clenched. "Lo, hey, are you okay?" he asked, and I didn't even bother to respond. I just had my one dream ripped out of my grasp. How did he think I felt? Apparently he realized that was a stupid question and kept going. "I know Iruka sounded like he was going a bit hard on you. See? Iruka sees a bit of himself in you. He was an orphan, too. He only wants to make sure you can handle it, be the best ninja you can be." But I really wanted to pass this time. I whispered faintly. "Needed to pass. I know," he sighed, but there was definitely something wrong with his voice. "Hey, Naruto, what would you say if I told you about a secret way to pass?" My head jerked up, looking at where his voice was coming from. This usually gave me the illusion of eye contact. "There's another way to pass? Really? I still have a chance?" I heard a flicker of hair and cloth. He must have nodded. "Yep, I'm not really supposed to tell you about it, but you try so hard, you really deserve another chance." Yep, something was definitely off here. I'd never heard of a secret way to pass, and I'd been through these damn exams twice already. Not trying to pass the first 2 times, just seeing how I handled pressure, not too well, as it turned out, so something was wrong. But I shoved it away, focusing on the teacher Sasuke had told me had gray-silver hair. I was desperate to pass. If I passed this time there was a chance I'd actually be with a friend. And without Sasuke there, I knew I was pretty much doomed. What do I have to do? I slipped along the wall of the Hokage Tower, easily avoiding the numerous traps that had been set. It was easy for me. I could hear the air shifting around the various tripwires over the corridors, and the breathing of the rare patrolling guards was almost deafening to my sharp hearing. As long as no one snuck up on me, I would be fine. Despite the fact I couldn't see what was going on, wearing what Sasuke had called a walking orange eyesore had made me instinctively stealthy enough to hide from Anbu even in bright orange. Probably a good thing. I heard the Hokage shuffling around in his office, probably doing paperwork, the poor bugger, and shifted up to stand beside the door, listening to his irritable mutters, and frowned, wondering how I was going to get past him. Obviously he was too tired to notice my chakra, so at the very least I was safe for a minute or two. I frowned, thinking, before remembering I had been in that vault a couple of weeks ago, talking to the Sandame while he was in there. I had been leaning on some massive scroll and had run my hands over it to check its size, out of curiosity, and it had stuck in my mind as a perfect picture. I wasn't sure exactly why he'd been in there, but I did remember exactly where in the room that big scroll had been, and that it was a little bigger than me. Damn, was I glad I'd taken the time to learn that goddamn Kawarimi. I went through the hand seals, careful with my focus, and felt the tingle and then the pressure of switching places with the scroll. I landed soundlessly in the vault, and was pleased to note that I'd been holding myself right for the scroll to fall quietly against a corner instead of clattering loudly to the floor. Mizuki had told me exactly where the forbidden scroll was kept, and it wasn't hard to find its shelf. I brushed my fingers across the crisp parchment skimmed dust hard wood seal raised grained kanji carved in the front, reading, "Forbidden," in the deep engravings and nodding to myself. Yep, this was it. I switched with the large scroll outside and found myself back in the corridor, and made a mental note to warn the old man about that particular security defect. It wouldn't be that hard to sneak in if you knew the basic layout of the scroll vault. Hell, I'd managed it, and I was doing this without having ever seen the vault with my own eyes. It took me a bare 10 minutes to get out of the tower, completely undetected, I might add, and into the forest to practice. I opened the scroll and brushed my fingers over the parchment, sensing where the ink was by faint traces that I was probably the only one who could detect. I almost groaned at the first jutsu, Kage Bunshin. The world hated me, I was sure. But just in case, I read the rest of it, skimming my fingers over the writing and mentally translating it into words as I went, and raised an eyebrow. This one actually sounded like one I could do. Sure, it wouldn't be easy, and I'd probably need Sasuke to get it exactly right, but it sounded like a version of Bunshin that I might actually be able to do. I put my hands into the cross seal that the scroll had in a sketch, and said, Kage Bunshin. I felt my chakra splitting, and felt the half that wasn't a part of me anymore beginning to swirl, me gently shaping it with only a nudge of my will here and there instead of the usual uphill fight it was. It was like the chakra actually knew what it was supposed to do. There was a poof as the clone solidified, and I held my breath, wondering if maybe, just this once, I had managed to do it right. Hey, my voice exclaimed, it worked. Huh? I said, confused. The scroll had said the clones would be solid, but it didn't mention talking. Awesome. This ability is gonna be really useful later on. The clone said happily. Better, you managed it first try. Wonder how many of these things you can make at once. I found myself responding to the clone's question with, the scroll said however many my chakra can handle, so I guess I'll just have to experiment. I don't really know how much chakra I have, aside from, too damn much. The scroll had also said that this jutsu was highly dangerous and shouldn't be attempted by anyone lower than Junin, though, so I was kinda skeptical on exactly how accurate it was. The clone puffed out, and I cursed. Well, it hadn't lasted, but not bad for a first attempt. The clones were supposed to hang around until I dismissed them, though, so that it'd have to be fixed. And I definitely wanted to be able to make more than one. Good grief. I'd been talking to myself. I shook the thought off and brought my fingers back into the cross seal, repeating, Kage Bunshin. This time there were 3 puffs as 3 different splits of chakra solidified, and I smiled. This was starting to work. Hey, getting better, boss, one of the clones remarked. 3's good, 3's very good. Hey, are you solid? One of them asked another, and there was an, ouch, as one of the clones was poked, followed by a, poof, as it was dispelled. Oops, yes, until I poked you. I half grinned at the clones remaining, and asked, okay, so I can make 3 clones. 3 clones who injure each other and get dispelled. What now? Work on damage absorption, one of them offered, their voice coming from the left. 1 poke isn't good, it's supposed to be a good deal higher than that. Something's not going right there. Oh, and I think you're replicating your hearing funny, I'm getting buzzy sounds and I can't really hear what's going on. That could be a problem, I muttered, but there was a sinking, twisting feeling in my chest. I guess you guys can't see either, huh? There was a ruffling sound of clothes as both clones shook their heads. We're supposed to be identical copies. No new abilities. We should be just as effective as you in battle, except we need the same other senses, and they're not working properly. I sighed. This'll need a bit of work. And the numbers thing, too. 3 won't be very useful in a fight. Better than none, the clone on the right pointed out. Frowning as I thought, my fingers trailed over the scroll, automatically absorbing the information, before I brightened at the next jutsu. Taju Kage Bunshin. I grinned. This was going to be fun. Over an hour later, I was flat on my back, panting. My chakra had been busily separating itself as often as it could, and I was starting to wear myself out. But, as far as I could tell, I had mastered this jutsu. The clones were all perfect, exact copies of me, and they had stopped dispelling at a simple poke or shove, standing up to a couple of good kicks before poofing out. My chakra was returning quickly, the remains of the clones returning to me and adding to my supplies, so that I could sit up easily to grin to myself. Naruto. Iruka's voice snapped. What the hell are you doing? Ah, good. Time to test the theory that had been nagging at the back of my mind for most of my practice hour. Hey, Iruka, I shouted in return, jumping to my feet and beaming. Did you come to test me? I learned a jutsu, like Mizuki said. Mizuki? Iruka asked, and I knew that I'd been right. Something had been up, and I'd been dragged right into the middle of it. Yeah, Mizuki. He told me all about the secret way to pass, about how you have to borrow the forbidden scroll and learn a jutsu from it to pass. And I did it, Iruka. I learned one. Mizuki told you that? My sensei asked, obviously trying to wrap his mind around something. Laughter cut off our conversation, and I narrowed sightless eyes at my other sensei, soon-to-be ex-sensei. He was above the ground, standing on a tree branch, I guessed, and he was laughing like the maniac he was. Yes, me, he sneered, and even though I couldn't see him, I could easily imagine the sneering, disgusted expression on his face as he continued, Naruto, you're so gullible, stealing the forbidden scroll like that for me. Honestly, and you want to be a shinobi? You tricked him, Iruka exclaimed, obviously furious. Half the village is looking for an innocent child, because you thought it would be funny to get him in trouble? How immature are you? It's not for fun, Iruka, Mizuki snarled, it's for power. The power of the jutsu contained in that scroll. Hand it over, Naruto. Naruto, don't give it to him. Iruka barked instantly. I shifted the scroll so that it was sitting over my back. I had no intentions of handing it over, and I had a feeling I was going to need to make a run for it. Carrying this bulky thing in my arms would only make it worse. It was hard enough to sprint through a forest by memory alone. Mizuki. Iruka howled, apparently beyond furious, and I couldn't blame him. I knew he thought of Mizuki as a friend, and to have this betrayal. Naruto. Mizuki shouted to me, ignoring Iruka. Have you ever wondered why the village hates you so much? Ever wondered what you could have done? Why the whole village looks at you as if you're a monster? Mizuki, no. Iruka shouted. It's against the law. I tightened my grip on the scroll, taking a step back. This wasn't something I wanted to hear, but at the same time. Every day of my life. Every single day, I wondered. But I didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to know. When the nine-tailed fox demon Kyuubi attacked Konoha 12 years ago, it was sealed inside a baby. You are the Kyuubi. Even your beloved Iruka-sensei hates your guts. The bottom of my stomach dropped out. The nine-tailed fox. Why everyone hated me. Why I had to fight for every step I took. Why my best friend had to pretend to hate me. Why? Why everyone called me a monster, or demon freak, whenever they thought I couldn't hear them. I heard nothing from Iruka, just the bare gasp of air that he needed for survival, and felt my chest tighten. So I was a monster. I was just a dropout, a monster, a failure. A freak. I spun around and bolted into the trees. Sneering laughter echoed after me from the barren depths of my memories. I ran as fast as I could, and that was very fast. I was almost as fast as Sasuke in a sprinting match, and if I really had a reason to be running, I was faster. I was probably lucky not to run into any trees, but my mental map and my memory was more than enough. It was easy for me to dart between the trees, ducking and leaping the lower branches. I didn't try to take to the trees. It had taken me 3 weeks and a sprained ankle to map them well enough for me not to be a health hazard, but I didn't want to risk it. The solid ground made for enough of a fast escape route from a world that hated me. I sobbed in a breath, stumbling over a chute that hadn't been in that mud patch last week. Stupid trees. Always growing. And tumbled to the ground, landing with a heavy crash on the forest floor and rolling to cushion some of the unsteady impact. Ow! I really should have broken something, but somehow, all I felt was one massive bruise beginning to form over my abdomen. I tried to push myself back up, but an unfamiliar whistling sound made me whip my head around. Like the sound of wind reflecting off a shuriken, but bigger, and the shape was different. There was a tearing sound, and then the sound of squelching mud, but my sharp nose caught the smell of blood, and my eyes widened. Not mud, flesh. Someone had just been injured, and that someone was standing over me. I stared at the place I could hear the panting, and opened my mouth to say something, anything, when I heard Iruka say, "Run for it, Naruto. Don't let Mizuki get the scroll." I drew in a sharp breath, my mind clicking rapidly. Iruka had been hurt. Iruka had stopped the blade. Iruka was hurt. Iruka had protected me? What the crap? This made no sense. So I did the only thing I could, and followed his orders. I ran, again. I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't do a bunshin. I gotten Iruka hurt, and I couldn't even escape from one measly chunin. For Kami's sake, I could get away from Anbu. "Naruto, quick, give me the scroll." I heard Iruka shout from further off, and I turned my head towards it, quickly leaping that way. What in the world? There was a thump, and a poof, plus the short burst of chakra that I knew meant a henge was being dropped. Mizuki's voice said, "How did you know I wasn't Iruka?" I was confused. What was he on about? He couldn't see me. I was a tree or two away from him and whoever had attacked him, and it was a leafy one. I was hidden perfectly from view in the heavy undergrowth. There was another poof, and another chakra flare, and then Iruka's voice said, heavy with pain, because I'm Iruka. I guessed that Mizuki, in Iruka Henge, had been chasing Iruka, in Naruto Henge. And these people were teaching us? Sad. Why are you bothering to protect him? Mizuki spat. He's just a monster, a demon. He's not worth anything, he'll never be any more than a failure. The Kyuubi is nothing more than a monster, one who killed your parents. I swear my heart nearly stopped at that. So Iruka had even more right to hate me than anyone else? That was all I was, wasn't it? A monster, a demon. You're right, Iruka said, panting, his voice thick with what I suspected was blood. I let my head droop. I was nothing. The Kyuubi is a monster. I was worth nothing at all. But Naruto's not like that, Iruka continued. He's not a monster. He's a klutz, and a bit of a clown, but when it really comes down to it, he's a bright, energetic kid. Uzumaki Naruto is not a monster, or a freak. He's a human being. He's hard-working and kind-hearted. He's not the Kyuubi, and he never will be. He's not the one who killed my parents. He's the #1 loudmouth of Konoha, and more importantly, my student. And that is why I will protect him. I felt my heart lifting. Iruka said, he said I'm not a monster. That I'm worth something. That I'm not nothing. Mizuki snarled. I was thinking of leaving you until later, but now I suppose I'll have to deal with you first. There was a strange clicking noise that I assumed was him getting out one of those funny shuriken-like weapons I'd heard before, and with a burst of hot rage I bared my teeth. Think again. I sprang out of my hiding place, just in time to deflect the weapon with a burst of chakra from one outstretched hand and halting in a defending position in front of Iruka, one of the few people on the planet who had ever defended me. If you touch my sensei, I growled, the sound feral with hate, I'll kill you. Mizuki laughed. He laughed, ignoring the killer intent that had to be coming off me in waves. You can't take me down, he sneered. You're nothing. I grinned, moving my hands into a seal that was fast becoming familiar. Tajuu cage bunshin. I roared at the top of my lungs, and I felt my chakra dividing itself as fast as it possibly could, the results exploding into existence all around us. I let my grin widen, baring my teeth. That was definitely the best one so far. Well over 1,000. I inhaled deeply, and heard 1,000 sets of lungs imitating me, as we all bellowed, Cha-arj. With 1,000 of me in action, it took a bare 20 seconds to pummel Mizuki into unconsciousness. the constant barrage of furious punches and kicks not being something any normal human could withstand for more than a few seconds. As I, the real me, kicked him into a tree, the 1,000 clones I'd managed to conjure up dispelled, one by one disappearing from existence. I smiled sheepishly at the spot I could hear Iruka's labored breathing, saying, "I guess I overdid it a bit, huh?" Iruka coughed. "Just a little, I think. Naruto, come here, and close your eyes." I walked over to him slowly, wondering what he would think of me now. I'd just beaten the utter crap out of Mizuki, who had attempted to betray the village, using me as a scapegoat, and my train of thought was cut off as I felt Iruka pulling off the goggles I sometimes wore, replacing them with warm cloth, and I heard him say, "Okay, you can open them now." I did open them, making my eyes look up at my forehead, totally pointless, and moved my hand to touch the strip of cloth that had been neatly tied there, and the plate of metal firmly fixed in position. My fingers brushed over the spiraling symbol engraved deeply into the steel, and my eyes widened instinctively, my mouth dropping open as my mind painted the Konoha leaf resting on my forehead. The Hite 8. Iruka had passed me. I was a ninja. I felt the excitement bubbling up inside me and I let out an ear-splitting, "Yahoo!" and grabbed my sensei around the waist, hugging him tightly. "Thank you so much, Iruka-sensei." He laughed. "Well, the requirement is 3 bunshin, and you just made at least 1,000 perfect copies of yourself, using a Junin-level jutsu, no less. How could I not pass you, after a performance like that?" I laughed myself, feeling like I was going to explode with happiness. I'd made it. I was a ninja, and I'd finally conquered that stupid bunshin. "Come on, Naruto," my sensei laughed, "I'll treat you to ramen. It's starting to get late, and I know you haven't had dinner." I whooped, and bounced alongside him as we started to walk back to the village. Then I paused. "Wait, what about Mizuki and the scroll?" "Well, I hardly think Mizuki's going anywhere," Iruka pointed out. "He can stay where he is until the Anbu pick him up." I left a message explaining what happened, and I'm sure the Sandaime Hokage was following it in his crystal ball, so he'll know exactly what happened. "The scroll can stay with us until we can return it safely to the vault." I nodded energetically. That made sense, and better, it meant I could have dinner straight away. I sat down at one of the stools at Ichiraku Ramen Bar, bouncing excitedly and begging Iruka for miso ramen. My sensei was chuckling under his breath as the chef plonked 2 bowls of ramen down in front of us, saying, "First batch of the morning, fresh and piping hot. Eat up, boys." Morning, already, must have been busy for longer than I thought. I heard Iruka's chopsticks crack and half froze. I wasn't sure where mine were. Sasuke always tapped the table for me where the chopsticks were, or muttered under his breath, but he wasn't here, and I couldn't let Iruka know I was blind. I just couldn't. "Naruto." I heard a familiar voice bellow from down the street, and turned my head towards it. "Where the hell have you been? I've been looking all over the damn village for you." I felt my face splitting into a grin. "Sasuke." I hollered back at the top of my lungs. "Sasuke. I passed. What?" He was closer now. I could hear his sprinting footfalls as he ran towards us, and as he screeched to a halt he panted out, "How'd you do it?" "You passed, that's great." I grinned and formed the cross seal. "Kage Bunshin," I announced happily, and the chakra instantly puffed out into a shadow clone, who did a backflip. "That's awesome, Naruto," Sasuke said. "Where'd you pick that up?" "Oh, Kami, don't tell me you actually." I borrowed the forbidden scroll and taught myself the Kage Bunshin, I told him, happily raining on whatever hope he'd had that I hadn't gone and done exactly that. "Arg, I told you not to tell me." Iruka cleared his throat, apparently surprised to see Sasuke talking so much. But really, if he's fighting with me, he talks quite a bit. He's very quiet around other people, most of the time, but when it was just him and me, it was normal. Sasuke, Naruto did manage to pass, although, he coughed, it wasn't exactly orthodox. I had freaked out over the cough. "Ah, Iruka-sensei, I forgot, you're hurt. We have to get you to the hospital." Iruka chuckled. "Ah, don't worry about it. I patched myself up on the way here, and it wasn't that bad." "Wasn't that bad?" "Those shuriken thingies were awful. They'd cause wicked injuries, you must be in agony." "Well, tell me all about it, then," Sasuke said, sitting down in the seat next to mine. "But then the ramen will get cold." I whined, the complaint a plea in disguise. I heard Sasuke sigh, and then rap his knuckles on the counter in front of me. The ramen's right there, moron. You can talk and eat at the same time. I know that much about your table manners. I love you, Sasuke. I thought as I reached out and grabbed the chopsticks he had just indicated with that tap. In half a second I was gulping down the ramen and babbling the story out to my best friend, waving one arm around for emphasis at the important bits and shoveling noodles into my mouth. And then one of those shuriken things went flying towards Iruka and it was awesome. I was just like pow, and then it went flying and I said, "If you touch my sensei I'll kill you. And, those shuriken are nasty. Do you have my sketchpad?" Sasuke handed me a rectangular pad and tapped my knuckles with the pencil, which I quickly grabbed and flicked to a blank page, rapidly scribbling on the paper and sketching out the razors of the projectile weapon and the slight curve of each blade. The deadly-looking weapon feeling right as I checked the slight abrasions the pencil made with my fingers. That slight curve would explain the whistles I'd heard, and the collapsible mechanism would have made those clicks as it was unfolding. Made sense. There, like that, about my arm span from point to point. Damn, those things were nasty. Like a shuriken, but way bigger and a little different, too. I gulped down half of a second bowl of ramen in one go and continued. Then Mizuki said, "Well, not so much said as laughed. That I couldn't touch him or something. And then I used the Taju cage bunshin and then it was pow, pow, kablam and he was down. There was, like, 1,000 bunshin. It was awesome, the best one I managed all night. Then Iruka gave me his forehead protector and we came here, and then you showed up, and..." "Yes, I know the story from there, you idiot," Sasuke sighed, but there was a hint of a smile in his voice. "But that means you passed, right?" I turned to Iruka, tensing my face muscles and raising my eyebrows in what Sasuke had nicknamed the puppy dog eyes no jutsu, and my sensei laughed. "Well, I'll have to change the results, but since the bunshin was the only thing holding Naruto back and he can do it beyond perfectly now, I really have no choice but to pass him." "Whoohoo!" I shouted, and Sasuke scowled, growling, "Dobi, not so loud." "Must the whole village know?" "Yes," I declared. "In fact, screw the village, I want the whole country to know." I jumped to my feet and opened my mouth, but Sasuke clapped both hands over my face, wrestling me to the ground. "Oh, no you don't. I want to have eardrums when we get our teams. Which means I don't want you blowing them out a few damn hours beforehand." "Teme." I spat around his hands, wriggling underneath his weight until I got the leverage to kick him off and then make a break for it as he made another leap at me. "See you later, Iruka-sensei," I shouted as we bolted down the street. Iruka sighed. "Those two, just a minute ago I could have sworn they were best friends, and now they're trying to kill each other again. Honestly, the way they act sometimes." Attention. Hitaki Kakashi. Memo. It wasn't a request, Kakashi. You are taking a team. Signed, Sandame Hokage. Attention. Sandame Hokage. Memo. I will agree to consider teaching a genin team this year, but I would like to request permission to teach the team containing Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. Signed, Hitaki Kakashi. P.S. That wasn't a request either. Sensei's brat and Obito's brat are no brats at all. I was bouncing up and down continuously in my seat beside Sasuke later that morning. Sleep? Why would I need such a useless thing? Again acting as a shield from the fangirls, who had yet to notice that the seat they were fighting over was currently occupied. Sasuke was ignoring me, although I had to be irritating him, but as per usual, I was less annoying than the female population of our class. Even if I was high for no particular reason. "Naruto," a voice sighed from above me, and I glanced up, hopefully meeting Shikamaru's eyes. His voice had a slower tempo than a normal person's, probably something to do with his laziness. He spoke slowly so that if someone got what he was saying before he finished, he wouldn't have to say the whole sentence. "You know, this class is for graduating students only." I scowled. "In case you haven't noticed, Shika, I have a Hite 8, which means that I passed. So I meant to be in here, thank you very much." He sighed again. "This is too troublesome," he muttered, slouching off to a seat closer to the back, next to Choji, who was eating chips again. Slightly stale chips, I noticed from the sounds of the crunches. The din of the classroom only got worse when the two ringleaders of Sasuke's fan club came shoving in, calling each other names and obviously arguing over the coveted position of being seated next to their hero. Sasuke let out a tiny sound that could have been a whimper, and I would have been teasing him mercilessly over the unmanly sound if I hadn't been distracted by a high-frequency screech blasting my sensitive ears. After a few seconds, when the ringing had died down a little, I said, "Ow. I think I'm deaf in my right ear now." Sasuke sniggered. "Well, that sucks," he muttered out of the corner of his mouth. "You may not need your eyes to be a ninja, but you sure as hell need your ears." Wah? I wasn't actually deaf, but as I listened to the two girls bickered at each other at high pitches, I rather wished I was. Their pitch was giving me a hash and %ing migraine. "I was here first, forehead girl." "No way, Ino pig. Sasuke-kun would way rather sit next to me than you. Wouldn't you, Sasuke-kun?" The sickly, vaguely bubbly tone the girl was using made me feel ill, while the high pitch just made my ears hurt. Sure, take the easy way out, Sasuke." "What am I, invisible?" I snapped aloud. "I'm sitting here, so go somewhere else." The fangirls turned their attention to me, which, while it gave Sasuke a bit of relief, gave me a headache even through the fingers I had the foresight to shove in my ears. I couldn't even understand half of what they were screeching, let alone care. Iruka's voice cut through the white wall of noise that was Sakura and Ino's voices, bellowing, "Sit down and shut up, for Kami's sake." I had almost forgotten how loud he could be when he needed to be. Ino snorted and stomped away, a scowl evident in the weight under her footsteps, but to my absolute horror, Sakura squeezed onto the bench beside me. "Please don't let her speak, please don't let her speak, please don't let her speak." "Sasuke-kun, don't you hope that we could be on the same team? That would be great, wouldn't it?" She spoke. I moaned silently and hid my head under my arms. No, Sasuke, don't encourage her. Listen up," Iruka barked. "You are now genin, which means that you take on genin duties. And it's not all fun and games anymore. The life of a ninja is full of hardships and trials to endure, pain and difficulty." He actually said a lot more, but I ignored him, tracing the grain of the wood of the desk with my fingertips until he started to call out the teams, when I blinked myself awake and asked Sasuke, "Sue, what did he just say in that long and pointless speech that I didn't listen to?" "That we are genin, ninja lives suck, and these are our teams," Sasuke muttered under his breath. "Oh, so why couldn't he just say that in the first place?" "Because he's a teacher. Teachers are hardwired to say as little as possible in as many words as they can. You would suck at being a teacher. You'd be great at it, if not for the fact that you couldn't see what the little snot-nosed torags were doing." "Why's that, Sasuke-kun?" Sakura put in, and my heart nearly stopped. Shit, she was listening. "Because he's an absent-minded twat," Sasuke replied, and I breathed a faint sigh of relief before retorting, "I am not, Teme. Ooh, a bug." I looked over the edge of my desk, tipping my head towards the small insect I could hear scuttling on the floor. My tone was argumentative, but Sasuke knew, through my proving of his point, that I was thanking him for the quick save. I rest my case. "No problem, Naruto. Team 7. Uzumaki Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke." "Oh, thank Kami." I felt my shoulder muscles relaxing, and Sasuke brushed my hand reassuringly. "And Haruno Sakura." "Oh crap." Me and Sasuke both groaned, while Sakura whooped with excitement at being put on Sasuke-kun's team. Thud. I slammed my head on the desk twice more, before Sasuke poked me hard in the shoulder. "Knock it off, you don't have that many brain cells to lose." "Teme," I grumbled. Several hours of listening to Sakura's high-pitched fawning later and I was ready to crawl under a desk and die. Where the F** and percent is our F** and percent ing sensei. "Naruto." Sakura yelled at me, "Don't swear in front of a lady." "I'll swear whenever I goddamn want to." I yelled in her general direction. My ears were ringing, and it was getting harder to tell where she was. "And where the F** and percent is this lady you speak of?" I heard her fist moving, but I was wedged between the bench and the desk and couldn't get low enough in time to dodge, catching her punch in the back of the head. "OWWW," I complained, having been shoved off the bench and onto the floor. "That Hjort. And you call yourself a ninja?" Sasuke's voice was mocking, but there was a flicker of concern only I could hear, and I mentally translated, "Are you okay?" A lot of what we say isn't in what's actually said. It means we can have a full-blown argument, and be discussing bits and pieces that no one else knows about. I think it's useful. Sasuke says it's creepy, but I'm pretty sure he's joking. Yes I do, I shouted back at him. Translation. I'm fine. It was her fault. She is so annoying. I agree. Let's kill her later. Okay, so maybe the second bit was wishful thinking. Despite that, my mind was already going through vague half-formed plans of breaking into her house and setting her bed on fire. And how long were we meant to put up with her? I'm bored, I announced to most of the building, and rolled out from under the bench, bouncing down steps that I had long ago taught myself to navigate without falling flat on my face. I grabbed a chalkboard eraser from the bottom of the blackboard and went to the door, opening it a crack and wedging the duster up the top. The next person to open it would get a good bonk on the head. Naruto, what are you doing? Sakura snapped. Your pranks are so stupid. Do you want to get in trouble with our Junin-sensei? I snorted. If he's good enough to know it's there, we'll get a little knowledge on his abilities. If he can't, he'll learn not to underestimate us just because we're kids. Fair trade. Plus, it's his fault he's late. Naruto. What if they're an emergency, and that's why he's late? By 4 hours? Nah. The only emergency I accept for that is, dead, or, mortally wounded. Right, Sasuke? You're such an idiot. Translation. Bingo. I heard footsteps echoing down the corridor. Too light and far apart to be children, and the wrong pulse to be Iruka or any of the other teachers. I sat up a little straighter, and Sasuke shifted nearby to look at the door, he having noticed me hearing something worth noting. I heard the door open and a single footfall as someone took a step inside, followed by the thump of the eraser hitting something. Sakura yelped, and I hissed to Sasuke quickly under my breath. What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? He stepped in and the eraser hit him, right on the head, he hissed back. Nice shot. Yes, my first impression of you three is that, you're a waste of my time. His voice had a similar pulse to Shikamaru's, but was a lower baritone, more arrogant and even more bored than lazy. And my first impression of you is that you need an attitude transplant and a wristwatch, I retorted promptly. Good thing first impressions are often wrong, Kakashi-sensei. I got the definite sense that someone was glaring at me. I wonder who? Well, meet me up on the roof, our new teacher said boredly, and there was a poof and a flash of chakra. Stronger than Henge, and closer in timbre to Kawarimi. Sakura gasped, and Sasuke muttered under his breath to me, he just used Shunshin. Show off. I nodded agreement, looking as if I was just nodding to myself for no real reason, and bounced to my feet. Sasuke stood up behind me, and I pretended to stare out the window for a second to let him get in front of me before following tamely. Sakura, closer to the door, went out straight away, and I heard her footsteps immediately take the stairwell towards the roof. Sasuke's hands brushed the edges of the doorway, letting me refix its position in my head, and as we started going up the stairs, he trailed his hand along the banister, the changes in the direction of the noise letting me know when there was a curve coming up. Ow! I had walked into the doorway just before the roof, Sasuke's hand had missed the other edge of the doorway, and I had misjudged the width of the door without the second reference. You're so clumsy. Sorry, Teme, don't do it again. Rubbing my head, I moved out onto the roof and walked over to where Sasuke was standing, leaning against the railing he'd brushed with one hand a second ago. Sasuke himself sat down on the stairs about a meter away from my feet, and Sakura was on his other side. Well, now that we're all here, why don't we introduce ourselves? Kakashi drawled. His voice was very bored, and it irritated me. If he was so bored, then why was he here? Your name, likes, dislikes, hobbies, your dream, that sort of thing. Why don't you go first, sensei, to show us how it's done? Sakura suggested. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. Well, likes and dislikes, I don't feel like telling you those. My dream for the future, never really thought about it. Hobbies, well, I have lots of hobbies. Your turn. Well, that was helpful, I thought, frowning slightly. He gave away a lot more than he let on, and I don't think he meant to. Secretive guy, doesn't like to think about the future. Probably lives in the past a bit. Better keep an eye out for that. His likes and dislikes. I don't think there's something children should be privy to. Judging from his amused tone there, hobbies, man. I think he really does have a lot of hobbies. Wonder what they are. Well, that was helpful. Sakura exclaimed. All we really learned was his name. Apparently she didn't catch that. Okay, you go first, Kakashi said. There was a long pause. Finally Sasuke sighed. Idiot, are you even awake? Shit, he was talking to me. What was the question again? I yelped, then acted like I had remembered. Oh yeah. Likes. I like ramen and my friend, bright colors, ramen, and music. I don't like silence. I really don't like silence. Oh, and those 3 minutes you have to wait for instant ramen to cook after you put in the hot water. That's not instant. I hate high-pitched noises. They're even worse than silence. And really loud ones, they're bad, too. Hobbies. My favorite hobby is drawing, but I make explosive seals, too. I'm working on shock tags, but so far all they do is light up the living room occasionally. So if I come in with singed eyebrows, you know why. I stopped, expecting Kakashi to prompt the next person, but Sakura said, "What about your dream?" I was immediately suspicious. Why did she care? Why had she noticed? Why did she give a damn about what my dream was, especially if I didn't want to tell her? Was she planning something? Was I too paranoid for my own good? Probably. I contemplated this internally for a second, then swore mentally. Oh crap, I'm turning into Sasuke. Oh, come on. How would I know what my dreams are? I'm just an idiot, I whined. Ask Sasuke, he's smart. Can I have that in writing? No. Okay, your turn, Kakashi said, and apparently indicated Sakura, as it was her voice I heard next. Well, my likes are. The person I like is, there followed a little giggle. My hobbies, another weird giggle. I got the distinct feeling she was staring at my best friend, and smirked to myself. I was so teasing Sasuke about this later. I plugged my ears to avoid Sakura's high-pitched whine-ness and spent the rest of her fangirl speech planning out how to piss Sasuke off later, and also my escape route when he took a swing at me. And the last one. Sasuke's turn. I tugged my fingers out of my ears. Sasuke's voice was always quiet and a good, low pitch. I don't like much, and I dislike many things. Translation. I like Naruto and tomatoes, and I dislike fangirls and a whole lot of other crap. I don't have any hobbies. Though I'll never admit it, I like to help Naruto with his pranks to piss off people who annoy me. And my dream for the future. His eyes narrowed, I could just tell from his tone. Is to even the score with a certain someone. Mentally I cursed. Damn, I thought he'd outgrown the I am an Avenger I must kill Itachi phase. Unless he's talking about the, oh crap, I told him to leave that alone. I shot a dirty look in what I thought was Sasuke's direction, just in case. Judging from Sakura's failed attempt at hitting me, I think I missed. Well, you're all three individuals, each with your own thoughts and opinions, Kakashi said easily. That's good. Now, tomorrow, we'll begin with a survival exercise. What? But we did survival exercises back in the academy, said Sakura, sounding confused, and I gave a barely noticeable shudder. Those had been hell for someone who couldn't see what the crap he was doing. Thank God for Sasuke. I remember this one time he got put on the opposite team and I know I totally flunked that one. I fell into a pool of freezing slime that I swear wasn't there a second ago. I tuned back in just in time to hear Kakashi chuckling. Huh? What did I miss this time? You see, out of the 27 graduates, only 9 of them will become genin. What? Sakura screamed. I already had my fingers in my ears. If we did pass on the same team I was going to have to talk to her about the shrieking habit. I wasn't surprised by the extra test thing. I'd heard some Junin discussing the second genin exam a couple of weeks ago. I don't think I was supposed to overhear it, boot. This was apparently it. They hadn't been joking. I myself was scowling internally. Kakashi's tone had hinted at the fact he thought we'd fail his stupid test. Well, we'd show him. And anyway, he couldn't even dodge an eraser and had shown up 4 hours late. What sort of faith could you put in his words? So I'll see you guys tomorrow at 5 in the morning. Just remember. If you don't want to throw up, don't eat breakfast. He vanished, and I immediately thought, screw the guy who needs a wristwatch. Screw not eating breakfast, I said aloud. He's probably going to show up 4 hours late again, and if we haven't had anything to eat by then we'll be useless in any form of survival exercise. Good point. But Kakashi-sensei just told us not to eat breakfast. Sakura insisted. And we had to show up on time. That's how it works. Actually, it was only a suggestion, Sasuke put in quietly. And how much stock can we put in this guy's words, anyway? I pointed out. Showed up 4 hours late, underestimated his team, couldn't dodge a simple chalkboard eraser. Unless he was just too lazy to get out of the way, which is even worse, underestimated us again. And now he's told us to starve ourselves and then abandoned us until tomorrow. Suor, I can respect him. Not. Sakura began lecturing in her high-pitched voice, and I sighed. Damn, this was going to be a headache. I just knew it. Kakashi-sensei was late. Again. I've got half a mind to sneak into the records vault to find this guy's file, just to see if he's actually always this late, or if he just doesn't care enough about us to be on time. I muttered to Sasuke, who quietly, HNED, in agreement. Sakura was dozing nearby. She had been trying to stay awake, but had failed rather miserably. Listening to her breathing cautiously, I asked Sasuke quietly, what does Kakashi-sensei look like? Sasuke paused, considering his answer. He's pretty tall, looks even taller with his hairstyle. His hair's silver and it sticks up all over the place. He looks about late 20s, early 30s. He wears a navy blue mask that totally covers the bottom half of his face, and his hite-8 is tied on at an angle to cover his left eye. He looks kind of disorganized, sort of lazy in his posture. Yeah, he sounds lazy, I commented. And arrogant, that too. Sasuke fell silent. Damn. I didn't complain too loudly though, content to listen to Sakura's breathing in the hope she'd stay asleep forever. Of course, it didn't last, and around 7:30 she woke up, fingers in ears, freaked out, realized our sensei still wasn't here, calmed down, and went to her favorite pastime. Talking at Sasuke, who was ignoring her. When she failed to get any response, she went to her second favorite pastime, staring at Sasuke like a love-struck pigeon. Oh, wait. I couldn't even see what she was doing, and I still knew the expression she was wearing. Sasuke had described it as the stupidly hopeful puppy look. Something like 4 goddamn boring hours later, I heard the faint jingle of bells from one of the several trails through the forest, and glanced towards it. Sasuke came out of his broody trance to look over as well, and I could hear footsteps now. Kakashi-sensei's pulse. Finally, our sensei was here. Sensei, you're late. Sakura shouted. I frowned slightly and muttered to Sasuke, mental note, buy earplugs. Am I? Our sensei asked, sounding genuinely surprised, and I decided that he really needed a wristwatch. The bells jingled. Well, you see, I had to help this little old lady with her groceries, and I guess it made me a little late. Sakura snorted disbelievingly while I raised my eyebrows at Sasuke. I actually couldn't tell if he was lying or not. But anyway, on to survival training. Your task is simple. The bells jingled again. What was up with them? And what kind of ninja wore bells, anyway? You must get these bells from me, and you have until noon to do it. He put something down on a piece of wood. A stump, I remembered, was about where he was standing. Ah, that's what the bells were for. Then, crap, how could I get them if I couldn't even see them? Weenie. But, sensei, there's only 2 bells, and there's 3 of us, Sakura said, sounding confused, and now I was, too. Only 2 bells? Why's that? He said we had to get the bells. Maybe it's just to make it a wider target than one? So it'll be harder for us to get in each other's way? Ah, that's the catch, Sakura. Only the people who get a bell will be allowed to pass, and the one who fails will be tied to one of those stumps and will not be allowed to eat lunch, and will have to go back to the academy. Or not. My jaw dropped open in a combination of horror and awe. Horror, oh Cammy, there is no way in the 9 hells I'm going back to the academy, and awe. Man, was this guy good. He'd told us not to eat breakfast, and me and Sasuke had both steadfastly ignored that. Sakura was probably starving, though. He had just effectively turned us against each other, too, each for his own. Ready? Go. Instantly Sasuke bolted, and I followed him through the trees straight away, listening to Kakashi-sensei behind us. He wasn't following us, which was good. Sasuke wanted to say something, but I couldn't tell what. He paused. The air pressure here felt a bit lighter, and I guessed we were in a clearing. Alright, so what was off about that? He asked firmly. I twitched my head at him, my mind flashing frantically. I don't get it, and we don't have time for this. What if he comes after us? There's only so much warning I can give, and his footfalls are pretty distinctive, but he's a Junin and… Calm down, Sasuke interrupted. He's too lazy for that. He'll wait for us to come to him. Now, I'll say it again. What was wrong with that whole thing? I took a breath, trying to calm my mind down. Well, for one thing, Genin teams are always in teams of 3. I've never, ever heard a team of less than 3 Genin training or doing village missions around town. Not two, not one. Always three. Either all three of us are gonna pass this, or none of us will. Sasuke nodded, his hair flicking against his face, the sound telling me his head motions. Right, which means the no bell no pass thing has to be a fake. I pinched the skin next to my eye with 2 fingers, thinking. There's no way in hell us genin can match up to a Junin, I pointed out. Not on our own, anyway. But all together. And we might just stand a chance, Sasuke finished. Come on, Kakashi-sensei's busy reading a book, so we can get to Sakura and get her to help without many problems. Oh, man, do we have to? I mumbled, following him. We were taking a circle around Kakashi-sensei, who as far as I could tell hadn't moved. She gives me such a headache. Deal, Dobi. We need her if we're gonna pass this. I grumbled under my breath and continued to follow Sasuke, slipping between the passing trees as he brushed them with his fingertips. Kakashi didn't seem to have moved and Sakura was hiding in the forest over. Wait, who the heck was that? Sasuke, there's someone over with Sakura, I said aloud, and Kakashi-sensei hasn't moved at all. I think there's some, I swore aloud as my mind connected the identical footsteps and chakra signature, which really hadn't made sense, with the Junin level jutsu I had learnt just last night. Damn, shadow clone. A what? Sasuke asked, his voice getting louder as he turned around to look at me, not pausing in his sprint. A what clone? Shadow clone, Kage Bunshin, I replied, moving around a bush that I remembered to have thorns. It's a form of the clone technique, but it's not genjutsu. The clones produced are solid and have their own chakra source. They're very dangerous though, cause they divide the user's chakra evenly. Make too many and you'll kill yourself with chakra exhaustion in under a minute. Kakashi-sensei must be pretty strong to even make one. Sasuke grunted, absorbing the new information. Do you know anything else about them? I frowned and clipped a tree with my elbow. Teme, you missed a tree. The scroll I was reading said something about them being able to fool the Byakugan, cause of their chakra systems, but the Sharingan can see through the jutsu. Hey, isn't the Sharingan your clan's bloodline? Yes. Shut up, we're getting close to Saw. There was an ear-splitting scream that actually made me freeze in place and clamp my hands over my ears in an attempt to ward off the nail being driven into my skull. Kura, Sasuke finished with a faint sigh of exasperation. Too late, I muttered, carefully prying one hand away from my head to check if the noise was gone. It had. What can you hear? Sasuke asked, coming back to me. He'd had the same thought as me, I think, that if Kakashi-sensei had made one clone to go after Sakura, what were the chances he'd made one to come after us so he could read his book in peace? Sakura's 100 meters that way, unconscious, I think. Whatever that thing was. I'm pretty sure it was a shadow clone, it's gone now, and Kakashi-sensei is, shit. 20 meters north and closing. Shit, Sasuke agreed, and whipped around to face the direction I told him. Double shit, I hissed under my breath, moving to stand at his back. The Bunshin's coming up behind us. This is not going to be fun. I can't say I expected to find you two together, our sensei's voice remarked from behind me. I didn't turn around, focusing my ears on the faintest of sounds the Bunshin was making, barely detectable, but enough to alert me to the threat still coming. You two are usually at each other's throats. Why cooperate now, when one of you could easily drag the other down? I scowled, knowing what he was up to. Necessity, Sasuke informed him, also catching on. Like one genin can take on a Junin. Even less likely, I continued, narrowing sightless eyes at where the clone was just brushing past a bush and through what I thought was the boundary of our clearing, is 2 genin against 2 Junin. I yanked on the back of Sasuke's shirt, and we both crouched down, dodging the flurry of metal weapons. Kunai. I was reasonably sure from the sheer whistle of the blades cutting air. But Kakashi might have access to more dangerous weapons, and I smirked as I heard the sound of our sensei having to step to the side to avoid his own assault. I tugged again, and we stood up slowly, keeping our backs pressed against each other to cover all angles. What say we even this fight out a little? I asked rhetorically, bringing my hands into my newly favorited cross seal. Kage Bunshin. Instantly 10 puffs of smoke went off, surrounding me and Sasuke in a wave of haze. One of them hanged instantly into Sasuke, leaving me and the original to take advantage of the cover and sneak away. It wasn't a particularly good cover, and I had my suspicions that Kakashi-sensei had seen right through it, but neither he nor his bunshin followed us as we ran towards the spot Sakura was. Or the spot her breathing was, at least. Sasuke would probably have been completely unable to find her without my ears pointing him in the right direction. Or not, as he described the scene of her fainting. Looks utterly terrified, face white enough to make her hair look red. What color is her hair normally? Pink, and I've heard it's natural. Pink. I frowned, trying to remember that color, before finally placing it and shuddering. It was a faded memory, and definitely not a good one. I shook off the dull memories of colors I had been sifting through and said instead, "Any ideas to wake her up?" "We're going to need her, I'm sorry to say. If I knew a sweetened jutsu I'd use it," he muttered, and I grinned evilly. "Makes me sad I don't know any, either." "Ah well. Shake and shout it is, then." She woke up screaming in terror, and I pinned my fingers in my ears for what had to be the 10th time that day. From Sasuke's tense reaction, she had thrown herself at him and was now sobbing into his shoulder. Something about him dying. I stifled a grimace at that thought and piped up, "We need a plan to get those bells off Kakashi-sensei. Just charging in randomly will only get us our asses handed to us on silver platters." "Any ideas?" "Naruto, don't swear," Sakura snapped, coming out of her fear-induced stupor to yell at me. It wasn't the original intention, but hey, it snapped her out of it. Whatever works, even if it wasn't supposed to. I ignored her and turned my head to Sasuke, who was quiet, probably thinking. "If what you already worked out is correct," he said slowly, "then the bells are only a target, something to focus on. What Kakashi-sensei actually wants to see is teamwork. But that can't be the only catch, the bells still have something to do with this. But there are only 2 of them." While he was muttering over that, I didn't want to know what Sakura was doing. As long as she was out of my personal space, I suddenly blinked at an influx of information, giving it several seconds thought as I wondered how I knew that Kakashi had finished off my clones and was headed our way, though more slowly than he could have been. Then another flash of info. His clone was down, dispelled to nothing more than gases, and my last one had just been dispelled. Did shadow clones have the ability to transfer information to their creator? That was something to be investigated, but for now, I could definitely hear his footsteps. "Whatever plan you've got, I want to hear it now," I said to Sasuke. "Our sensei's coming." The clones didn't distract him for long. "Well, that was amusing," said Kakashi's voice from somewhere behind Sakura. "Shit," I said conversationally as I turned around. Mental note. Factor in sensei's inhuman quietness when calculating distance through footfall volume. Kakashi, if I could see him, was no doubt giving us a very evil grin. I swore under my breath multiple times and wondered if I could pull off a henge of Sakura. Not likely. Sasuke's had taken close to a month to perfect, and had to be updated regularly. I only had passing knowledge of Sakura. That option was out, although the clones would probably distract him long enough for us to. For us to what? We needed a damn plan. There was a choked yelp as Sasuke was kicked off his feet, and I reacted immediately, catching him to break his fall and dragging him upright again in under a second while Sakura screamed and, I hoped, ducked. Sasuke wheezed for a second or two, leaning on me while he struggled to breathe. Right, screw the plan thing, this guy was going down. No one hurt Sasuke and got away with it. Not even his fangirls. I don't know why they think green hair is a bad thing. I don't see any problem with it. Wait. Cage Bunshin, I growled. That would keep him busy for a minute or two. Sasuke, are you alright? What's Sakura doing? I'm fine, he gasped, just winded. Sakura's unconscious. No, wait, she's waking up. Kakashi's having trouble with your clones. Too many. Holy crap. And I thought, one of you was scary. Yeah, now shut up and think. We need a plan, pronto. I'm a genin, not a F% in Ing Taijutsu master. You're the smart one, remember? We need to get him pinned, or at the very least distracted enough for one of us to grab those bells, Sasuke panted, his breath mostly back. Half left of your bunshin. Distractions. I doubt we'd be able to get him off guard enough. Do you know genjutsu? That could work. I snorted, reminding him that I couldn't even detect genjutsu. And that was when they actually affected me. Seriously, the eye contact ones don't work, and the others are just effing annoying. Can't make him, can't dispel him, can't even notice them. I all round suck at genjutsu. Can you make enough bunshin too? No, there's only so much they can do. They're lightweights anyway. Our conversation was cut short by me suddenly catching a punch to the side of the head, followed up by a kick to the side that sent me flying. Ow, I hate it when that happens. Sasuke was using Gukakyu from the sound of things, and as I tried to stand up and stumbled, the rushing sound of fire eating the air nearby halted as Sasuke grabbed me, holding me upright and probably stopping me from knocking myself out against a tree. The Bunshin ran out, huh? I said blearily, making the cross seal. Better fix that. Cage Bunshin. Another dozen clones flickered to life and attacked our sensei, and I leant my pounding head against Sasuke's shoulder. Damn, that punch had hurt. We need a plan, and we need it now. I dunno how long I can keep this up, especially if I get punched like that again. Although the pain was fading again, and I could hear properly. My ears had been ringing slightly, but now I could hear Sakura's breathing and therefore didn't jump when she next spoke. I can use Genjutsu as a distraction, if you need me to, Sasuke-kun. He turned his head towards her, while I kept mine staring at the rather vicious-sounding fight going on between my clones and my sensei. I winced as one particular set of memories returned. Dang, that had to have hurt. Wait, it did. Another clone was pinned down and then dispatched by Kunai as Sasuke's mind whirred and clicked. I could almost hear it going with my ear right next to his head like this. Okay, I've got it now, he said, and if I had touched his face, I knew I'd feel his smirk. The predatory smirk that made you glad he was on your side, if he was. The, you are so screwed now, smirk. We backed away, leaving my clones to bother Kakashi for a while Sakura set up her genjutsu and we all got into position. I couldn't sense anything happening, but I dismissed it as a, you suck at genjutsu, thing. Then, when Sasuke gave the signal, a tap to the back of my hand, I mass dispelled my remaining clones. There were only 3 left by this stage, then sent up a massive flare of chakra as I created as many clones as I could. Kakashi-sensei instinctively turned towards the flare, which was what Sasuke had been counting on. In the split second he let down his guard just a fraction. Sakura's mild genjutsu took hold, and then I let all heck break loose. At least 100 clones exploded out of the forest, aimed at the thoroughly distracted Kakashi-sensei, and tackled him, weighing him down and frantically grabbing at the bells. Sasuke and the original me joined in the fray, Sasuke shooting a Hosenka that escaped my clones and singed our sensei, and me making a frantic dive for the temptingly jingling bells I could hear as the man staggered back to his feet. My hand closed around 2 metallic objects. There was a slight pressure and then a snap as the strings broke, and then I hit the ground rolling. Panting, I sprang to my feet, my fist tight around the bells we had fought so hard for, mildly surprised the genjutsu ambush had worked, and mildly disappointed. I'd wanted to test my new shock tags, too. The clones all backed away and then all dispelled at once, and I staggered at the sudden rush, but shook my head to clear it and looked up at the spot I could hear Kakashi-sensei's slightly elevated breathing. We got the bells, I told him, holding one out to Sasuke, who took it and tapped it with one finger, testing the ring to check if it was genuine. So, who passes, and who fails? Kakashi asked, sounding a blend between somber and cheerful. It was a scary blend. We got the bells, and we used teamwork, Sasuke said firmly. That's the purpose of this test. Testing our teamwork. Not our genin abilities. Those have been tested already. Now, we're put into teams to test it all out, the idealisms and promises. The bell thing is just to try to split us up, it's all a fake. He threw his bell at Kakashi, and it pinged off his forehead protector. Woo, nice shot, I said, aiming at the spot I'd heard the bell ricochet from, and with a clink I hit it too. Woo, score for me. True, Kakashi-sensei allowed, but I didn't relax. His voice's tone wasn't something that put me at ease. Not to mention we'd just thrown his test back in his face, rather literally. But who fails? There are only 2 bells, and there are only 2 lunches, and 3 of you. I scowled. Then, one of the memories of my clones filtered through, and a wicked grin took the scowl's place. I don't like that look, Sasuke said quietly, or at least I wouldn't like it if it was aimed at me. I reached into my pocket, where a clone had slipped something before dispelling, and said, so those bells are basically passes to being genin, right? With a flourish, I brought out Kakashi's book from my pocket. So, is your book worth a pass, Kakashi-sensei? Or shall we just burn it? Sasuke, got enough for one more Gukakyu? I sensed Sasuke grinning as he said, "Burn the book." "Okay, okay, you all pass." The man yelped, obviously fearing for the fate of his book. "How the heck did you get that? I've been told I have very light fingers." "Why did you get that?" Sasuke sounded confused, but amused, and probably a little relieved. We had, after all, just managed to extort our sensei into passing all three of us. A couple of my clones forgot what they were looking for, so they grabbed whatever they could. "Oh, that reminds me, you might want these back." I fished out a couple of kunai, 3 shuriken, a ring of keys, a couple of scrolls, a pen, a pocket knife, a square mirror, a faded photograph, something that looked like a shopping list, a roll of bandage and what felt like a spare face mask, throwing them at Kakashi-sensei. "You're a little kleptomaniac," he exclaimed, catching his book and flipping it open immediately. The rest of his stuff was stowed in a random pocket. "Oh no, if I was in klepto mode you'd be lucky to still have your fingers, Kakashi-sensei. You can forget your clothes. And maybe the hair, too." Our sensei cleared his throat, apparently somewhat nervous at that proclamation. "Well, by anyone's standards, you have passed the test," he declared. "Perhaps in an unusual way, but you passed nonetheless. You worked together as a team to overcome an opponent with more experience on his side. But remember," his voice took on the quality of someone dispensing invaluable wisdom. And no, that wasn't sarcasm. The sobriety of his voice was clear to all three of us as he said, "Those who disobey the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash." Sasuke and I glanced at each other. I couldn't imagine leaving Sasuke behind, for anything. He knew everything about me, and I knew everything about him. Without Sasuke, I'd have either given up, gotten found out or gone completely crazy ages ago. Maybe even gotten myself killed. Without me, God knows what might have happened to Sasuke's mentality. You three worked together as a team, and even twisted the rules to your own gain, to ensure all of you made it through, he continued. You're not just clones churned out of the academy, destined for nothing more than death. You are your own people. Come on, follow me. Bemused, but silent, we followed our sensei back to the clearing we had first started off in. I smelled bento, probably from the boxed lunches Sasuke reported under his breath sitting near the training stumps. There was clean running water nearby, a small river. I remembered this clearing now, the monument. Kakashi-sensei stopped in front of the polished rock, and I stopped a little way behind Sasuke, Sakura on the other side of him. Engraved in this rock are the names of many great ninja. Some of them even my comrades. I registered my sensei's words, and filed them away, but under my breath I was reciting every name carved into the marble. Suzuki Hana, Higazawa Yami, Jiroto Kanayu. Sasuke had bowed his head respectfully, and my eyes were aimed at the ground as I continued, Uchiha Obito. Kanure Sume, Hanasaki Jinsei, Kurokain Ryu, Nezumi Rin. The list went on and on. Anyone else would have had trouble remembering them all. But the names were burned into my memory from the first time I'd sat here, my fingers brushing blindly over the names carved deep into the rock. It had been a pointless exercise, memorizing them all, but I had done it anyway. Takashi Aki, Amino Kosuke, Amino Sora, Namikaze Minato. I paused for a deep, steadying breath, and Sakura spoke up. So all of these people were considered great ninja by the village? Yes, I said stolidly. They were greatly respected. They would have died for their village, like so many others. But unlike them, they all did. Every name on this rock belongs to someone who was killed in action. This is the Kia Memorial, where all ninja who die in service to their village are remembered. You know all the names, Kakashi noted, and I realized his voice was a little tight. So slight, I was probably the only person who would have noticed, but still there. He was good at hiding it. His teammates were on here, weren't they? Some of them even my comrades. Killed in action, a long time ago. I only nodded in response. For a long time, everyone was silent. The only sound of the wind rushing overhead or the subdued twittering of birds. Finally our sensei spoke again, and all three of us turned our heads towards him. Tomorrow, your life as a ninja begins, he said calmly, his voice back to normal. It is a difficult road that you three have chosen, but based on your performance today, I think it's the right way to go. Then abruptly his voice changed from solemn to ear-painingly cheerful. See you guys tomorrow at the Red Bridge at 7:30. Don't be late. He vanished with the distinctive flick of chakra that I recognized as his shunshin, and slowly, I relaxed. We had made it. We'd passed the stupid test, and now we were genin. Officially. Oh, wow, Sasuke-kun. You were so cool. Sakura shouted from somewhere off to the left. The way you thought up that plan was just fantastic. You're a really good strategist. What am I, invisible? It was me who made you actually start thinking, and then provided the manpower to actually pull it off, I grumbled, internally amused. Be thankful, Dobi, Sasuke growled, sounding slightly suffocated. At least it's not hugging you. Auk, where did that little brat go? Sasuke stomped into the room, footsteps chattering over the wooden floor, where I was calmly sitting on top of the table. I hadn't done a lot of running around since we got here, owing to the fact that this was new territory to me and I had no clue where the F% I was and would probably walk into a wall. However, I was definitely useful for locating the little torags who were our charges. In the refrigerator, I reported, being able to hear the muffled yelps of, "It's cold in here," which Sasuke probably couldn't. My friend froze, no pun intended. How the crap did he get in there? I shrugged unconcernedly. Locked himself in. He's playing hide and seek with the one under the sink. Aha, so that's where that one went. Sasuke locked the cupboard door. What about number 3? Under the bed, playing with dust bunnies. Sakura shouted from the bedroom. Ah, that's what that noise was. Now, where's number 4? Ouch, Sasuke yelped. Too late. Wait, how can 1 and 2 be playing hide and seek if they're both hiding? Sasuke asked, grabbing hold of 4 before she could run off again. I'm looking, I reported. Aha, that makes more sense now. D-rank missions, I decided, as we shoved the 4 brats into the bathtub and scrubbed until Sasuke decided they were clean and then dragged them into bedroom and guarded all the exits, were extremely boring. Not to mention pointless. I just don't see the point, I complained to Sasuke over an hour later, as we walked back to the bridge to meet our sensei, who would either be there waiting like he'd never moved, or we'd wait up to 4 hours for him to show. I mean, I understand that the babysitting thing is bodyguard practice, and find the pet is search and retrieve, while package delivery happens in the real world, but over far bigger distances. It's all ninja practice that never has to leave the village. But painting a fence? Cleaning up the park? What's that for? Humility, probably, Sasuke said, ignoring Sakura, whose feet I could hear dragging along the ground. She was clinging to Sasuke's arm again, and he was apparently pretending she was not there. Us genin have big heads, and the D-ranks are supposed to teach us humility and respect. Does it work? I asked, my ears keying in to at least 2 genin complaining to their teacher that they were tired of walking dogs. Their voices were unfamiliar, so they were probably in the year above ours, or the year above. Not really. It was a good idea, though. We were getting close to the bridge now, at least I thought we were. I'd never approached it from this angle before. I thought I could hear Kakashi's breathing, but I wasn't sure if it was him or, nope. Definitely Kakashi. Over the last 2 weeks we'd been genin. I had learned to identify his perverted little giggle when he read the Icha Icha book that Sasuke and I had threatened to burn during our bell test. And my chakra sensing, which was slowly improving, recognized his familiar warmth easily, though not as easily as my other teammates. Heya sensei, what do we do now? I asked brightly, bouncing to a stop on the wooden planks of the bridge and leaning on the railing. Whose fence needs painting or brat needs watching? Which boring D-rank have we been assigned this time? There was the soft flap of his book snapping shut and I glanced at the spot I estimated his head to be at, widening my eyes in a questioning expression. I think you guys have done enough D-ranks for this morning, he said, his voice sounding dangerously cheerful. I backed up a step and nearly went over the railing, but kept my eyes, or rather ears, on our teacher warily. I did not like his tone. Happy was not a good thing. So I think we'll do some training for this afternoon. He was up to something, very definitely. There was a slight ruffle as he raised his arm, holding something up. Sasuke and Sakura groaned, but I was utterly perplexed. What are they for? He was definitely grinning. These are blindfolds, my dear genin. I couldn't help it. I laughed. It felt weird, having the cloth tied around my eyes like that, but at the same time it made me feel more secure, not having to worry about leaves or dust getting into my sensitive eyes. Yes, sensitive. They may not be able to see, but it still hurts like hell if bugs wander into them. Sasuke had walked into the bridge railing 4 times already, and Sakura was stumbling around blindly. I was just standing with one hand on the railing, listening to the breathing of my sensei and Sasuke's muttered curses, which were slowly getting worse. "Okay," I said loudly, "this isn't getting us anywhere. Stop moving, the pair of you." They both froze. "Okay, just stand still. Get used to the fact that you can't see. Just hold still and let your other senses take over." My teammates were now standing still, and Sasuke had stopped cursing. "Now sit down, slowly. Just sit for a few minutes. Your other senses will compensate for no sight. Just hold still. Focus on what you can hear, what you can smell. Breathe deeply. Touch the wood underneath you. Nothing matters but what is around you." I listened to their life signs, which felt slightly clearer now, as they calmed down. Sensei was nearby, but not doing anything, and I ignored him and his low, faintly familiar life signs. We all sat for a few minutes, until I continued, "What can you hear?" "You're breathing, Kakashi-sensei." "Flipping pages," Sasuke said quietly. "Wind stirring the leaves, the river flowing underneath us. I can hear the village and birds in the forest." I nodded to myself, then remembered they couldn't see me. "Sakura?" The same as Sasuke, mostly. I can hear dogs barking, and I think there's a team of genin in the forest near here, training." I focused. Yep, there was. I'd been mostly ignoring them, but now I recognized the voices, their chakras faintly tickling at my senses. Familiar, but not identifiable by their essences alone. Yes, that's Team 8, training with their sensei. They're practicing tracking. "Okay, do you feel confident enough to stand up yet?" I was suspicious as to why Kakashi-sensei had yet to intervene, but I didn't really care, either. Sasuke was the first to stand up, then me, followed less certainly by Sakura. "Find the railing of the bridge," I told them. I still hadn't taken my hand off it. "You need a reference to work with until you get used to this. Don't move. Just reach out until you touch it." Sakura was now clinging to the railing, and I hoped it wasn't actually splintering under her grip. Sasuke was only just brushing it with one hand, and I simply let my hand rest on top of it. I knew this area like the back of my hand now, so with any luck, I'd be able to get these two through it when they were used to using their eyes. "Well, you three seem to be well adjusted," said our sensei brightly, and I cursed eloquently under my breath. I'd forgotten about him. I guess now the real training can start. Both Sasuke and I swore under our breaths. Sakura was innocent of the trouble we were about to get into, asking, "What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? I thought this was training? Damn, we got saddled with an idiot," I muttered under my breath. "Oh yes, Sakura, this is training," said Kakashi-sensei, still all too cheerful. "But I know a way to make it much more effective, and lots more fun for the three of you." I could feel the blood draining out of my face as he spoke. "We are so dead." Our sensei stepped forward, handing something over to Sasuke, who fumbled with it for a second, before running his hands over it, trying to see what it was. "What the crap is this for?" he asked, and I walked over slowly to tap the back of his hand, asking to hold it. He handed it over, and I ran my fingers across it lightly. "Mission scroll," I decided. "You better not be expecting us to read that," Sakura said, sounding dangerous. I winced and took a step away from her, just to be on the safe side. "No, no," Kakashi-sensei laughed. "It's actually a mission report that I want you to deliver to the Hokage Tower. Preferably today. Of course, the blindfolds stay on until you get it there and deliver it properly." This time all three of us swore. "Have fun. Oh, and by the way, Sasuke, you can't use your ninjutsu, and Naruto, no shadow clones. No deadly force, either, so no blows aimed to kill, or any lethal weaponry. There's another genin team that has been instructed to steal your scroll, so you may want to watch out for them. WHAAAT? But he had already used Shunshin to flicker out. We seriously need to rewire his idea of fun, I grumbled. "Okay, this isn't gonna be easy, we'll need a plan." "I'm going to go for follow the leader," Sasuke said grouchily. "You know this village a lot better than I do and can actually walk it blindfolded." "Really?" I was favoring the track down sensei and kill him plan, I returned. "But yeah, okay, a bit more depth is required." "Okay." Sasuke paused, thinking. "Okay, here's the plan. You lead me and Sakura through the village, and try to stop us from getting ourselves killed. Listen for our pursuers and warn us if they start to go for us. If that happens, don't split up. Stick together. Sakura, if Naruto yanks on your shirt, he wants you to duck. Do it straight away. I'll carry the scroll, but if we get into a really sticky situation, I'll throw it to Naruto so he can get it out of here. Oh, no, I told him flatly, I'm not going anywhere near Sakura's shirt. She hits me enough as it is. And I'm not leaving you two on your own, blind, you'll get yourselves killed in seconds. How about this, then? When we get into trouble, I'll throw the scroll to you. Yell, Naruto has the scroll. And then we'll freeze until you come back for us. Yeah, that works. But then Naruto might get hurt. Sakura pointed out, her voice was drifting away. Stop moving, you'll fall into the river. I informed her, and she froze with a squeak of terror. Sakura, Naruto can escape from Anbu. I think it's safe to assume he can outrun a team of genin, if he's managed to get away from 4 Anbu squads. Ah, my finest hour, I said dreamily, and then laughed. Sasuke, that dirty look you tried to throw me totally missed. I'm over here, Teme. What has Naruto been doing that had Anbu after him? Sakura asked, apparently confused. He considers pissing people off an art form and a partial method of revenge. You can just imagine where that's led him. Come on, we need to get moving if we want to get this thing there before nightfall, and I so don't want to sleep on the streets blindfolded. I wrapped the railing with one hand. Village is this way, follow the sound of my voice. I can't tell you exactly where every pothole is, but I know where most of them are. When we get into the village we'll have to be touching, Sasuke said quietly, following me carefully, one hand on the railing and his footsteps uncertain. Sakura and I can't follow you from the sound of your voice alone, it's too noisy. We haven't had any training in this before. What, have you had training in this before, Naruto? Sakura asked instantly. Why's that? Did you have a sensei before? How did you do it? Was it hard? Why would you need to have training like this? Sakura, pipe down, I sighed, grabbing Sasuke's shirt before he could walk into a tree. If we're going to do this without getting rather badly hurt, we can't have you squeaking continuously at me. But why would you need blindfolded training? Sakura, shut up. Ah, Sasuke's patience had worn thin. Okay, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke was smirking now. I put up one hand and gently brushed his face, determining that, yes, the stupid smug expression was firmly in place. Eat your heart out, Naruto. I hate you. I know, right back atcha. Now come on. The sooner we finish this mission, the sooner we can ditch the blindfolds. Sakura's hand was clinging to my jacket, while Sasuke's hand just rested on my arm. He was surprisingly good at this. Then again, maybe he just trusted me. I briefly considered if this was a good thing, and decided to point out, this is such a case of the blind leading the blind that it's not even funny. Shut up and lead. I did, content to sing, 3 Blind Mice, as loud as I possibly could. Sasuke, predictably, ignored me. Sakura was trying to hit me but missing. I considered hitting her instead, just to show her, but decided against it. It wouldn't be fair to hit a blind girl. Now, if she hit me first, then anything short of murder was fair game. It was just after we made it into the village that I heard signs of people following us, and immediately focused in on them, blotting out the dull murmur of the village, deciphering 3 sets of footsteps. They weren't exactly trying to hide them. Definitely genin, one with the spring of a taijutsu user, another too light and even to tell, and the third set was female. A little bouncy, was she walking with a limp, or just moving unevenly? At this distance, I couldn't tell. Their chakras were faint tingles of weight at the edge of my consciousness. I wasn't good enough yet to really tell what was going on. Apparently I was concentrating a little too hard on the far-off tingles, as I stumbled over the gutter and brought all 3 of us down, the other 2 landing on top of me. Damn it, Naruto, watch where you're going. Sasuke yelled. Hey, in case you haven't noticed, I'm blind too. I yelled back, and as I pulled him to his feet I whispered in his ear, 3 followers, definitely genin older than us. Don't know them, at least one taijutsu user. I hate our sensei. Sasuke complained loudly to cover the near-silent exchange, and stumbled over the same gutter I had just stepped in. I held him upright with a curse or 2 and then said, so we know there's a gutter there, could we step over it now? Sure, why not? Said Sasuke dryly, picking up his foot and placing it well clear of the drain. We kept going, and I listened intently to the genin who were stalking us. Not so intently that I didn't remember where the giant pothole was, though, leading my teammates around it while the hunting team was talking. They were close enough now that I could hear nearly everything. Isn't that the top rookies team, Team 7? I believe so, my youthful teammate. I shuddered. Now I knew these guys. I'd never officially met them, but it was impossible not to at least hear them at some stage, and in 8 years of blind wandering, I had heard them quite a lot. Better, I had scavenged their academy records. Okay, I know who they are now, I muttered. Team Guy, also known as Cell 9, they graduated last year. 2 males, 1 female. Female is Rock Tenton, weapons mistress, hits targets with any weapon you care to name and then some 10 out of 10, 100 times out of 100. She has some weaponry-related jutsu, but she's a pure kenjutsu fighter. I don't know of her using genjutsu at all, and she prefers a ranged fight, no hand-to-hand. Her cousin, Rock Lee, is a taijutsu user. Something's up with his chakra coils that prevents him using any genjutsu or ninjutsu, but he makes up for it in sheer hard work. Not to be underestimated, he is deadly fast, too fast to see or even hear when he's going top speed without weights. There are Junin who can't track him when he doesn't have his weights on. His personality is a little weird. I've been told he's a smaller version of his sensei. Scary thought, that. Last one is last year's top rookie, Hyuga Neji, Hinata's cousin. He's a basic Hyuga, uptight bastard, but he's pretty talented. And he's got this weird thing about fate and destiny. And all sorts of other crap I don't understand or particularly care about. He's supposedly a genius, but I can't judge it too well without more background. He uses the Hyuga Juken style as his taijutsu. As far as I know, he doesn't have much else. Definitely a close combat fighter. It's creepy how you do that, Sasuke remarked quietly, so that the tracking team would have trouble hearing. You can tell a person's entire life story from their footsteps. Only if I've stolen their files before, I pointed out, and these guys are pretty pathetic as far as being inconspicuous goes. Lee can't whisper, and he has a very, I'll say, distinctive way of talking. How good are they at tracking? Sasuke asked quietly. Sakura seemed to have decided to stay quiet. Thank God. What's it matter, you're blind. Genius or no, I bet you wouldn't be able to hide your trail. The Hyuga can see through things with their Kekkei Genkei, that Ijutsu Doohickey. Byakugan. I ignored the correction from Sasuke and continued, so we've got nowhere to hide from him as long as we're within range, assuming he's using it, which I'll bet he is. Unless they're going easy on the poor blind idiots, which I doubt. As for actual tracking, once we're out of range, they are so screwed. So it's speed for speed? Yep, and we can't see what the hell we're doing. Where are we, anyway? Sakura asked. Not sure. Signpost. Yes. Sasuke, gimme a boost. You can't read it. Sakura pointed out as Sasuke hoisted me up by the waist. Me going hand over hand on the pole I'd found, feeling for the signs that had to be up here somewhere. Oh, shut up. Aha, there they were. I ran my fingers across the weathered carvings, reading aloud, Fubaki Street and Shikaran Avenue. Hokage Tower is this way. I turned my blindfolded head in the direction I knew the Hokage Tower was, and, yep, the distinct chakra disturbance that was a collection of raw power was there, too. I'd gotten it right. Hokage Tower was one of the few buildings I could actually sense for the sheer power. The academy was similar. However, in a village bubbling with chakra, it was almost impossible to find wavers of power that were separate buildings without some hint of direction. If someone told me, I could feel it there, but if I wasn't sure, it might as well have been the southern gate. I couldn't sense Anbu HQ, either. It was shielded from cheeky little chakra sensors like me. I am a genius, I declared, sliding down the pole and narrowly missing knocking Sasuke over. Hey genius, would you mind getting off my foot? Oh, can it? Sasuke, we're about a kilometer of walking distance. It'd be 500 meters or so, but there's a load of shops in the way. I sniffed the air, instantly locating the scents of my comrades, and also the various smells sent off by the shops. The other genin were closing in, but slowly. Possibly they'd been ordered to go easy on us, but I doubted that would count for much. The other genin are closing in. They're trying for a pincer movement, and they've blocked off the quickest route, I noted, vaguely hearing them conversing, spattered with squawks of static, so probably via headphones. They know Sasuke has the scroll. They're going to try to split us up, and if we get divided we'll be totally helpless. But they must know they have the advantage, Sakura said, sounding uneasy. Wouldn't they be ordered to go easy on us? Yes, said Sasuke flatly, but their pride is worth more. They're not going to be shown up by a trio of rookie genin if they can help it. This is a four-way crossroad, isn't it, Naruto? His voice dropped to almost nothing on the last sentence. Yes, I agreed, nodding automatically. Training myself to give visual aids, when I myself didn't need them, had been difficult, but worth it. I lowered my voice again, giving them the important parts. They've blocked the way we came, the shortest route, and the second shortest, but I know how to get there through the way they couldn't cover. Sasuke grunted. It was a vaguely affirmative noise that meant, lead on, or, hurry up already, or both. I started to walk, fast, knowing our only hope was speed, then broke into a jog down the uncovered street. The other two kept up, although Sasuke's hand tightened on my arm and I was sure Sakura would tear through my jacket at any second. I turned down a street I remembered, less of a street than an alley, and burst into a run that had the other two nearly tripping over themselves. This was a shortcut, hopefully, it would give us more of a chance. The hunter team had sped up, no doubt hoping to reform and catch us up, but sadly for them, I knew my way around here well. Very well. Then I swore, sensing an abrupt change in chakra. Need to remember that shift. And hearing the grim order. Attack and stop at all costs. Damn, they've gone attack mode. I barked. Sasuke, hand over the scroll. We were back on a moderately busy road, in the middle of a market, I thought. I grabbed the hands of the other two, pulling them over to a wall and pushing them against it. Stay here, sit down and don't move. I'll come back for you once I've lost the genin. Stay alert, and the password is sunflower. But Naruto, surely it's better for Sasuke-kun to hold onto the scroll, Sakura began, and I winced, but Sasuke intervened. Sakura, what was your favorite subject back in the academy? She immediately abandoned her previous train of thought and set to babbling on her academy days. I knew that if I touched his face I would feel the long-suffering expression on Sasuke's face, and promised myself I would make it up to him later. I focused on the genin, who had half paused, and could just barely make out their conversation through the bustle of the rest of the town. What are they doing? It appears they are splitting up in an attempt to confuse us. How unyouthful. Well, that's stupid. It's obvious the Uchiha would have the scroll. He's the only one tough enough to have a chance at hanging onto it. Crap, they're smart. Woo! I bellowed at the top of my lungs, waving the scroll around desperately. I stole the scroll off Sasuke. I am a genius. I am the best. I yelled, and then sprinted off through the streets. Well, that one's an idiot, the Hyuga remarked, and the three of them all set off in pursuit of me. I breathed a sigh of relief, tripping over a crack in the sidewalk as they bypassed my teammates and came straight after me. I kept going, taking a left at my next turn. I knew exactly where I was going. I listened behind me, trying to hear the conversation of Team Guy. Are you sure the blonde kid is blindfolded? He's running so confidently. That was the girl. Yeah, he just ran confidently into a wall. The Hyuga, obviously. Ow. Okay, new wall. I staggered painfully, having just found out I wasn't on the street I thought I was. Damn. Great. Where the crap am I? Sir? Sir, what street is this? I asked a passerby I could hear. A female voice returned, South Street. Oops. Sorry, ma'am. Thank you, though. I turned around and raced off, hearing the genin team immediately follow. I think they were on the rooftops. 3, 2, 1, one of them said, and then I turned the corner back onto the main road. Are you sure he's blindfolded? The girl of the team demanded. I ran into someone headfirst and cursed, staggering and almost falling. Sorry sir, I yelped, and then ran off again before the genin could catch up. I could hear the man swearing at me for quite a while, but hey. I was in a hurry. Yes, I'm sure, the Hyuga said dryly. I took off again at a full pelt sprint, racing for the Hokage Tower, making it seem as if I was just trying to run the gauntlet as fast as I could. Tenten, take him out. Aw, crap, they were actually trying to attack me. I put on a burst of speed, but one of the genin, the female, I think, sprang down in front of me. I didn't bother dodging and just plowed into her, knocking her over and making a small jump to avoid stepping on her. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. I lied over my shoulder at top volume. Right, that brat's going down, Tenten said. Yep, the girl. Unfortunately for them, I had already vanished. Panting, I made my way through the back alleys back to where I'd left Sasuke and Sakura, coming up beside them and then pausing, mentally checking the other genin. They had figured out I wasn't headed for the tower, but had yet to work out where I actually was. Okay, I ditched him, but it's only temporary, I said quietly, making Sakura jump. Hey, she's so twitchy. Sunflower, get up. If we take the street they had blocked, we'll be there in 2 minutes. Give you any trouble? Sasuke asked, letting me pull him to his feet. They tried to set Tenten on me but I just trampled her. I think they're trying to set up traps to catch us on our way there. Damn, I hate it when that happens. You trampled Tenten? Sasuke repeated. Why didn't you just dodge her? She was trying to grab me. And she would have just kept coming. As it is she wants to kill me. How is this a good thing? Anger may cloud her judgment. If not, it'll give me motivation to run. Oh man, let's just get this over with, Sasuke sighed, stumbling over a pothole. Yes sir. And then we were running. They weren't happy about it, but hey, I was physically dragging them so there wasn't much they could do about it. Get ready, I muttered under my breath, they're gonna ambush us. Get ready to dodge in 3, 2, 1. Duck. I yanked them both down and as a volley of weaponry went overhead. Were those water balloons I could hear? I frantically searched my pockets. Damn it, I know I put those stupid things here somewhere. AHA. I pulled a round stone from my pocket and tugged a strip of paper from the sheaf I was holding, wrapping it clumsily around the stone where it stuck instantly. I focused a flash of chakra into it and hurled it at the 3 genin who were dropping down on us, preparing a new tag but not yet throwing it as I dragged my team back to their feet. There was a flare of chakra as it was released and 3 screams of pain. I glanced around. Did the shock tags actually work? I asked, sounding astonished. Those things had been giving me grief for a month. Kakashi's voice replied, not exactly. Flash tags, not shock tags. Nice big burst of light, though, they're probably just as blind as you 3 are, now. Ah, really? I perked up, glancing at my sensei's hiding spot. He was standing on a light pole. Damn, got the light part down, now I just need the ning. Hey, Sasuke, have you seen any spare ning around here? Idiot, let's finish this mission so you can go finish your damn shock tags. Good plan. Kakashi-sensei, where's the tower? You do realize you're not supposed to ask me that? He sounded amused. How do you even know where I am? Kakashi-sensei, it's time you just admitted that I know everything. If you know everything, then where's the Hokage tower? Touché. Hey, you there, where's the Hokage tower? I called to yet another random. Gee, we really seem to be bothering a lot of people today. You're standing right in front of it, came the irritated reply. Oh yeah, I knew that. Let's go, guys. Oh no you don't, came Neji's shout from behind us. We all ducked, and there was the sound of a body hitting the ground. He had tried to tackle us, and apparently missed. We'd had all afternoon to get used to being blind, and I'd had most of my life. His team had had vaguely 30 seconds. Sorry Neji, I told him, but I guess we're just that much better than you this time. We stepped over him, though I think Sasuke purposely stood on his hand, and entered the Hokage tower. From there, it was a simple matter of handing the scroll over to the Chunin in charge, who seemed bemused to have 3 blindfolded genin troop in and hand over a mission report. Mission accomplished, said our sensei brightly. You can take off your blindfolds now. Oh thank God, Sakura exclaimed, yanking violently at the cloth over her eyes. That was so annoying, wasn't it, Sasuke-kun? Sasuke grunted as he pulled off his own blindfold. I undid the knot at the back of my head slowly and let the cloth fall into my hands, opening my eyes automatically and expecting to see exactly what I did. Nothing. I felt the smile slowly slide off my face and my spirits dim. Darn it, my eyes have gone all blurry now. The girl exclaimed. She seemed determined to make up for her nervous, red, petrified quietness on the mission. How about you too? Sasuke repeated, rubbing violently at his eyes with the backs of his hands. Same, I said quietly, keeping my voice carefully neutral. I wasn't talking about the blur. I was talking about the blackness. They'd just escaped it, I was still trapped there. My sudden dull, neutral tone got Sasuke's attention. Hey, Naruto, are you alright? He asked, sounding slightly anxious. I forced a smile onto my face. Sure, I'm fine, I replied. I'm going to head home, though, I still need to find the ning for my shock tags. I want to get them finished. I turned away from them and walked out of the tower, ignoring Sasuke shouting after me, "Naruto. Hey, Naruto." It took me 16 minutes exactly to get back to my empty apartment and let myself in. I sank down onto the floor in my living room, crossing my legs and staring sightlessly at the half-finished tags scattered around me. Carefully raising my hand, I held it about an inch in front of my nose and marveled at the blackness, not even the strange chips of color I had gotten when I closed my eyes, when I was younger. A void of pure black. I wondered what my hands would look like now. Surely they were different than the small, soft things I remembered. I traced the raised right hand with my left, counting calluses, scars and blisters, little changes in the skin's natural makeup. It wouldn't be so bad, I mused, if I didn't remember. If I had been born blind, and had no idea what orange was, or what the clear, open sky looked like, or how beautiful an autumn tree could be, because then it would be impossible to miss them. But I hadn't been born blind, I'd been blinded. It didn't sound that different, but it made all the difference in the world. Sasuke thought I was used to it, or, I thought he thought I was used to it. It had been 8 years, after all, that's plenty of time to grow accustomed to darkness. Right? Wrong. I could never get used to this. When I had been younger, I sometimes would wake up in the middle of the night, terrified beyond all reckoning by my nightmares, and face only the ocean of nothingness, the empty void that had become my world. And no matter how loud or long I screamed, no one could save me from that void. Fury wrenched at my chest and mind, totally unanticipated, and I punched the floor beneath me. No one had even tried. But was that right? I wondered suddenly. Hadn't Sasuke done his best, tried his best to save me? Well, it didn't work, I thought sourly, and besides, what does he know? He can just slip his blindfold off when he gets sick of darkness. I can't do that. My blindfold is permanent. I'll never see another sunrise, never laugh at a shadow pattern, never decorate my room with bright pictures to cheer myself up, and it's forever. How can Sasuke or anyone know what it's like? They don't know anything. I punched the floor again, harder, feeling it give slightly. Great. And now I have a fist-sized hole in my floor to worry about tripping over. That's just brilliant. I was jolted out of my brooding by a loud pounding on the door. Naruto. Open up. Let me in. Are you okay? You'd better not be sulking in there. I gritted my teeth. Sasuke. I'm not going away until you let me in. I'm gonna break down the door. Let me in. Now. The pounding stopped, and I knew I had about half a second before the door went flying off its hinges. God, Sasuke. It's open. Oh. I heard Sasuke open the door and come in, settling down on the floor in front of me. His hand brushed over the new fist hole addition to my living room, fingers catching faintly on splinters, and then reached up to touch my right cheek. You say you're okay again and I'll hit you, he promised, and I realized for the first time my cheeks were wet with tears. Oh, that? Naruto, what's up? I hesitated, then replied, my head hurts. It really did. Sasuke sighed. Right. Want a Panadol? One? Yeah? Sasuke stood up and walked into my kitchen, quickly finding the drug, before coming back out. Naruto, why is there a kunai embedded in your counter? Because. Here, swallow these, then get up. We're going places. I gulped the pills down swiftly. Places? Sasuke grabbed my shoulder and hauled me to my feet. Come on. Sitting here punching the floor isn't going to solve anything. It might. I protested. What, like the floor collapses and you die? I was silent, and he sighed. Come on, Naruto, you're not getting out of it that easy. He tugged me down the stairs and out into the street, where the daily mumble of human life was beginning to die down, waiting for the nightlife to emerge. Where are we going? I asked. Places. You don't know, do you? Not a clue. In the end, I think we went nearly everywhere. Sasuke dragged me across most of Konoha, insisting that there was more to life than sitting in my room making holes in the floor, training with our lazy sensei and doing missions that sucked anyway. Despite myself, despite the fury and desperation, I found my spirits lifting the longer I wandered around the village. Just hearing Sasuke's low voice was enough to calm me down as we walked on. I listened to the sounds of people laughing, the clinking of coins and chirping of insects. Children scrambling and playing in the dirt. Drunken ninjas singing something horribly off-key and somewhat disgusting in a nearby bar. Sasuke insisting that we go to the stalls that sold ink, because he knew I was nearly out after making seals for a week and a half. I smiled softly. Okay, So the world was crazy and life was unfair. What else was new? We were passing the markets and I could smell fresh fruit when I abruptly remembered a promise I had made to myself earlier. "Oh, Sasuke, wait here." "Wah," he said, but I was already heading away, and he had no choice but to stand, confused, on the pavement, waiting the 5 minutes it took me to get what I wanted. "Here," I said, holding my hand out to him. For distracting Sakura while I ditched team whatever they were. Sasuke grinned and took the tomato.